right, let's talk Chicago Bears. We got some news involving the Bears. Of course, right now everyone seems to be focused on the quarterback position, but there are other positions on the football team, of course, and the Bears have made a huge move involving a key potential free agent. Let's get right into this report, then talk about it more in detail on the other side. This is according to NBC Chicago. The Bears have elected to place their franchise tag on Jaylen Johnson, keeping him on the team for the 2024 season under the average salary of the top five highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL, which is $19.8 million. Johnson finished this past season strongly, executing his best season to date. He intercepted 4 passes, scored 1 touchdown, forced 1 fumble, and recorded 36 tackles. Most impressively, his allowed completion percentage was the lowest it's been in his career and the best in the league, finishing at just above 55%. All right, so there's obviously ongoing discussions, or reportedly ongoing discussions, between Johnson and the Bears going with the franchise tag here. Mize, I know you've got some special insights as to why this is a really smart move from the Bears. But first, Chicago fans, in the comment section below, look, as we're getting closer to free agency, you're starting to see what other players are going to be available, other players who weren't tagged. In the comment section below, give us a free agent from another team that you think the Bears should aggressively go after. Make sure you put that in the comment section below. But Miles, why do you think this was a really smart decision by the Bears and how they approached this whole situation?
Yeah, Nick, I think they couldn't have gone about this pretty much any better. I think this was a fantastic move by the Bears for a couple of reasons, namely being Johnson. Yes, he had an excellent season last season, best in the NFL if you look statistically and his PFF grades for any corner. He had a 90.8 PFF grade. We read all the statistics earlier. He looked absolutely killer. First year All Pro, first year Pro Bowler, really just knocked it out of the park. But if you go back the last 3 years in 2022, 2021, and 2020, he has a 54.9 grade, a 64.2 grade, a 62.9 grade. Very meh. I'd say very mediocre play the last 3 years. He hasn't been what he was this year. So I don't think quite yet it's time to roll out the $100+ million long-term extension for Jaylen Johnson. I do think he deserves some money to keep him around for another year to see, give him one more year. If this play is even reminiscent, if he's in the 80s, if he's in the high 70s, I think you roll out, pay him the big dollars to have a lockdown corner. But if he regresses back to where he was before, you have to start thinking again, maybe it was too early. Maybe this was a flash in the pan, 1 year type of performance. But I think the Bears made the smart move. They're saying, hey, we recognize you're a really good corner. We're going to pay you top five corner in the league money. $19.8 million is a great salary for a corner, but show us one more year and then maybe we work on that long-term extension. I think this is a really good move by the Bears, and I think this just shows Ryan Poles and this Bears front office, once again, they're really smart in how they do business.
And it's important to understand every position needs to be treated differently. We talk about the running back position all the time, right? The worst thing you could do is overpay for the running back, especially he's on the wrong side of 30. One of those positions you hear about a lot, potentially overpaying, is safety for a lot of the similar reasons. But it's also important to understand that cornerback is kind of one of its own variety as well, because the performance is so volatile year to year to year to year. Right. There's a lot of great corners, or I should say a lot of very good corners that have one bad year and then two really good years, and then they're never anything ever again. Namdi Asamoah from the Raiders way back in the day was a great example. He had 2 or 3 seasons where he was a first team All Pro, went to the Philadelphia Eagles. 2 years later, he was out of the National Football League, right? It happens a lot at that cornerback position. You look at probably the most famous example was Larry Brown, starting corner, Super Bowl MVP for the Dallas Cowboys in the mid 1990s. He leaves Dallas, goes to the Raiders, and he goes from being a good player, Super Bowl MVP kind of player, to basically becoming a nobody, a scrub in a couple of years, right? Cornerback performance is so volatile. It's one of those positions where one of the worst things you can do is lock a player up to a long-term deal. And it's not just me saying this, it's the smartest teams in football. Look at what the Chiefs are doing with L'Jarius Sneed, a very good corner in their own right, who just had a massive postseason run. All indications would be that the Chiefs should give Sneed a very well-deserved long-term deal, but they put him on the franchise tag as well because they understand, the Chiefs are smart, that look, if we give him a long-term deal, we're going to see a lot of volatile performance. And some years we'll be spending $25 million on a guy who's playing with a 70 PFF grade. That's just the way the cornerback position works. Poles is following that exact same trend here. He's like, listen, Johnson had a great year, a lot of things to love, but the reality is he probably won't maintain that for years to come. And if he does, great, we'll revisit then. And if he's going to look like a future Hall of Famer, we'll pay him that money when the time comes. But for now, we're going to take it 1 year at a time. We know the cornerback position is a very volatile performing one, and we're not going to put ourselves in a bad position going forward. I think that's a real smart move here by the Bears. I think that's the important thing of what Poles has done for the most part. All of the moves he's made, some of them good, a lot of them good, some of them not so good, they all haven't had any long-term negative effects. There hasn't been a trade for Russell Wilson, trade for Deshaun Watson. Poles has avoided those disasters that can really hamstring a team. I think that's one of his secret sauces, and this move right here from the Bears is another example of that.
Yeah, Nick, and I think you just see this time and time again. Another good example I can think of is Baltimore Ravens cornerback Marlon Humphrey. He
Yep.
had absolutely great rookie contract years leading up into that. In 2020, he'd been averaging like 75 plus grades every single year. 2021 signs that absolutely massive, I believe, $98 million 4-year deal. Then he gets injured, kind of up and down. He was never bad. He was never bad, don't get me wrong. He had 65 grades, 70 grades, 65 grade again, but he was never at that same level. And it just like you said, guys can come out real hot, they can look good, and whether it's just the league catches up to them, their level of play drops, or they get hurt with an injury, it can fall out of nowhere with the corner position. I think guys can lose a step very quickly, and all of a sudden they go from this all-world best corner in the league, Jaylen Johnson, to just another guy on the roster that you're paying $50 million, to. So I think this is a really great move by the Bears, like you said, just showing they're making really smart moves. And I really like your point that you made. Ryan Poles he made some bad moves. People point to the Chase Claypool move, but it didn't really set the Bears back anything. They didn't lose a whole lot from the deal. He took a low risk move, moved off of it, pivoted, it didn't work. I really like what Poles has been doing. I think this is one of those moves showing like, hey, we like you. We're going to give you some money, but we have the option to either sign you to that big extension or say, hey, not quite worth all of that money if it doesn't go as well in this coming season. So once again, the Bears showing, like I said, one of the smartest teams in the league.